Hey guys, welcome to the MSG Retired YouTube channel. Today we did a short interview with an ex-employee of Metro State Enforcement. This is prior to Jeremy starting up the business as a funeral escort, and this is when they were actually doing security. The business was owned by another family member at the time. Jeremy was in charge of the daily operations, and the gentleman that I interview goes by the name of Roger, which actually is a nickname. Also, the video's been blurred for identity purposes, but I think you're going to find this interview quite interesting, and I think there's going to be some follow-up interviews as well as another person that's an ex-employee. So, without further ado, let's get into the interview. All right, guys, I told you I'd have a new video coming out, and I'm going to introduce you to Roger, not his real name. Also, before all you COVID experts go freaking out, we are meeting the standards for this area of 3 feet separation. We did a pre-screening before we came in, washed our hands and all that good stuff. But Roger was an employee of Metro State prior to the whole funeral escort thing. This is back when it was a security company. His mom and another woman, what was her name?
Leanda
ran this thing. Jeremy was the day-to-day operations guy for this. And what we found out, we now know how Jeremy got all of his military stuff. And it was through deception. And I'm going to let Roger talk about how he ended up down there. Well, not how he ended up in Florida, but how he got the job working for him. And Roger is a veteran, and thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
And he is a veteran. He was a brand new soldier when he was down in Florida. He was with the National Guard. And, of course, impressionable brand new guy in the military. And I'm going to let Roger talk a little bit about how he ended up meeting up with Jeremy, how he got the job, and some of the things Jeremy had him do in regards to acquiring some military equipment, dress green, so on and so forth. So, Roger, if you could just start down in Florida.
Yeah, so pretty much I ended up, when I got down to Florida, I ended up getting my security license through the state of Florida, because you can't do security unless you have the licenses. So at that time, I just applied for the position that was on Craigslist for Metro State. And at that time, I ended up meeting Leanda and Jeremy at a Starbucks, which I also ended up meeting those two individuals again at the end of my employment at the same Starbucks. So yeah, so pretty much I ended up meeting them, and you know, right off the bat, after I was told Jeremy and Leanda that I was a veteran, Jeremy at that point said, "Oh, hey, you know, just by the way, you know, you can just call me Omarski." And I'm like, "Okay, no problem." And he says, "You know, I'll give you the whole little story of it, brief story, which was that he ended up losing a friend of his in the Ranger Battalion that he belonged to. That he ended up losing his friend, which called him Omarski, which I guess but he would always require us. I mean, once I started working for him, I started to realize it was like I was doing everything for him. He had me take him, because I was like, "Oh, I'm going to MacDill Air Force Base to go get a few things," and he says, "Oh, can I go with you?" type deal, and you just drive. So I ended up driving out there, and he was giving me the long spew the whole time on I-4, all the way until we got into St. Petersburg, Florida. which he was like, that, yeah, I just can't drive on base due to my, I guess, something that he did on post. And he was using the right words. He was using, military jargon that, most veterans are going to know. And I just pretty much just let him go. So we ended up going into clothing and sales, and he had me buy, he was paying for some of it, but I was also paying for some of it. But he had me run everything all on when I went through, because the lady...
Did he have an excuse about not having an ID card?
Yes, he did. He had an excuse for everything when it came to doing anything. It was, I don't have it. They took it. I'm no longer in. So you don't get one. I even asked him. I said, what about a VA card or something? And he says, yeah, I don't want to use the VA. I'm going to lose my top security clearance. And I'm like, okay. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And it just went on. It was so we ended up buying quite a bit. He ended up having me get him a new dress green long sleeve shirt. He ended up getting. I ended up buying him actually a bunch of boots, as well as ACU tops and bottoms. And then he had me getting him new. That was the other ones, the Class A, the shoes, which I ended up later on giving him a second set, because I had a set that I ended up getting all scratched up during basic, because I got put into the front leaning rest when I was in basic. So I ended up scratching the hell out of them.
Haven't we all been in front leaning rest?
Yeah.
This is in one. Roger became suspicious at some point, but then his employment with them terminated. I guess they were shutting the business down.
Yes, they were. They were shutting.
April. What was that? April 09?
I believe so. Yes.
Because I've seen the emails that you had saved, and I was looking at it, and I saw where they wanted you to show up at that Starbucks.
Yeah.
To turn in your IDs and your uniforms and that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. And Roger reached out to me to advise me that he was an employee down there. And this is, like I said, prior to the Metro State. Now, he brought some patches that he had, and I photographed those. And I'll throw those up on the screen. I'm also going to use them as the thumbnail. Now, these are LAPD looking badge, and his new Metro State patches and stuff. So this is current status of the funeral escorts. So there was some other things. You did security work at some of the big apartment areas.
Yes.
And Jeremy was driving around in
his blue 4-door Dodge Durango, which was outfitted with all white lights going from the front to the rear, but also it had the two blue lights on either side of the SUV as well that it was outfitted with. And we ended up pulling into one of the apartments that we did security at, which we ended up losing it anyways. We pulled in there, and he ended up turning his lights on. It was four individuals or so that we ended up pulling up to, which then we got out, and he had the lights on, and we walked up to the individuals. He ended up, not saying that he was a police officer, but he said he's a law enforcement, which then he also asked for their IDs, which then we went back into the vehicle. He put the IDs into the scanner printer combo that he had in his the SUV, which then because he made photocopies of it, and he ended up saving the scanned photo of the IDs all onto his computer, which again, I don't know why he did it, but he did it, you know. And then the location that this was at was is what they refer to down in Orlando, which is called a lot of people call it Crime Hills, which it's, you know, it's just because it's a high violence area, but the real name of it was Pine Hills. That was there was a few other ones that we also did security at, but tenants complained because of things that Jeremy was doing. You know, they ended up canceling a lot of the contracts, which that's where it started going downhill because of how he was running it and how he was trying to do things.
So he was the day-to-day operations guy. He was the one that you contacted with everything that was going on.
Correct.
There was an incident also when you guys were out on the highway.
Yes.
Running along at a pretty good clip, and what happened?
So we were running down the highway. It was me, a friend who also is in the service, and Jeremy was driving, and we were driving down probably doing 75, 80 miles an hour, maybe a little more, give or take. And we ended up seeing a FHP cruiser in the median, which saw us, which then started coming out a little bit, which then Jeremy went ahead and initiated his lights, which then the Florida Highway Patrol stopped and ended up just backing up and going back into his hiding spot.
You know, I can't believe how brazen he is about all of this stuff, and I can understand how he is a very dynamic. He has a very dynamic personality.
Oh,
he comes across as being the real thing, and most pathological liars do. And as you've found out by seeing some of my videos, that he's never been in the military, but it looks as though he's done a lot of research on the military.
Yeah.
Because he knows the jargon and he knows what's going on. And
yeah, we even did. We'll probably be talking about it here in a few, but it's going to be the airsoft. But we are also doing certain things. There was some wood lines that we would be going into out in Florida, which I even remember that we were all dressed in our camouflage, which is, you know, the ACUs and all that, which, you know, we were out there, and we also had our airsoft guns, and which everybody knows they have orange tips to them. People modify them, take the orange tips off, or they paint them black, whatever, you know, they decide to do. But, you know, we would all be going out there, which I really can't wait for him to even see this video. That I'm hoping he sees it.
I'm sure he will.
He's gonna probably pretty much take a big dump. His mouth's gonna drop. But the guy, one of the two sheriffs came out to it, and that was he threw his airsoft gun as fast, as quick as he could, and as far away from him. And I always even asked him, I said, "Why did you do that?" He says, "Oh, you know, I don't want the officer to think it's, you know, that it's real or something." I said, "Okay, whatever."
So yeah, that's kind of crazy. Did you ever see him with a real weapon?
No, it was all airsoft guns, which we got from a gentleman who was Muslim. That we would go. It was a building that had inside the building was like a flea market type deal, that's where he bought all of his stuff. That's even down to his handcuffs, the batons, the duty belts, stuff like that.
So he was buying all this stuff from a flea market, not
Yeah.
a reputable uniform shop.
Yeah.
That's that answers a lot. And I just, this is crazy. So you actually saw him wearing the military dress greens uniform?
Yeah, it was one morning that right before we ended up going on duty, he was wearing the whole Class A straight from top to bottom. It was the brown beret, which is the Ranger beret. He had
what rank was he wearing at that time?
There was a lieutenant rank at one time that I saw him, and then it went to a the hell was it? Excuse the language. Was it? I think major.
Okay, so he promoted himself from lieutenant to major. That's
yeah. He never had. I didn't ever see him wear captain ones or a captain one, but it was still. It went from lieutenant to major. And yeah, he had every story he could tell you. And it was like he was living someone's military life, and it just wasn't his.
Yeah, exactly. Did he ever mention special forces during that time frame, or was that something that came up a little bit later on? Because we see a picture of him wearing and I'm guessing it must have been his wedding, because his wife is in the picture. He's wearing full dress greens. The minute I saw it, I saw the crossed arrows. So that's special forces. No special forces officer is going to wear an infantryman's cord, blue cord on that uniform. That just, no, they don't do that. He's got a silver star, and then in my previous video, we tried to identify as many of the ribbons as we could. There was one in there that was a Purple Heart. Did you buy any of those ribbons for him?
I was actually just about to say yes. The Purple Heart, yes. I ended up buying quite a bit of the ribbons for him, including the Purple Heart. And yeah, he ended up having, I ended up also getting him the CQB, the close quarter combat badge as well, which I'm surprised, nobody has any of that, which I've been looking. I looked all night last night trying to find everything, but I can't get into one email address because the phone number's not the same, as well as I didn't have a backup recovery email, so I'm waiting for Yahoo to get back to me.
Right. Yeah, because you provided those emails, and they were pretty telling. I mean, I did some vetting on Roger. Just because of the nature of this whole Jeremy Dewitte thing, and I find Roger very credible. He's provided me with a lot of stuff that I never even asked for. So, and I'm sure that Jeremy is he's doing his own videos now under Metro State.
Yeah.
A day in the life of Dewitte. And I'm sure there'll be some kind of response to this, because he's already kind of hinted about retired guys not having enough clearance to see his records. And there's no such thing as classified military records.
No.
Any of your schools, any of that stuff, nothing more than a request to MPRC, and you can get all of that.
Yeah.
He is definitely very believable, and it was pretty obvious. He always had an excuse for everything that required him to have an ID card.
Yep.
Any of that stuff. It's just really amazing, some of the stuff that he had you do. And there's a lot of additional, police impersonation stuff as well. Even though he didn't identify himself as a police officer, he is acting out as a police officer.
Yeah.
Jeremy couldn't be a licensed security officer because of his felonies. So he was kind of doing that through you guys. And
correct.
You've already reached out to one of your buddies.
Yeah.
And we're not going to mention his name, but at some point I'm going to probably talk to Sergeant Blue Bacon and have him explore this even deeper on the police impersonation stuff. Just because I think there's a lot more to this that's been going on for a much longer time frame. Because we're going back 08, 09, and this is before Jeremy started his own business. But he was doing this stuff for quite a while.
Which again, and I'll even tell you this, is when he actually, because he reached out to me after I already left the company. He ended up asking back then, because of what was happening with his, is what I understood. I thought Luann Luanda was his mother or his stepmother or something along that lines. They ended up disbanding the security side, which.
And like I said, you were new in the military. You were very
Yep.
impressionable. He's coming across as a commissioned officer. You know, chances of you having questions for him, you're not going to question his
No.
military service.
No, I usually don't, but since with all this whole stolen valor stuff now, it's so common, and it makes me sick to my stomach. You know, it's like, really, you know, you're wearing that uniform and telling people, you know, who you think you are, and you know, our brothers and sisters died in that uniform, and now you want to sit here and say that you were. It's just, it makes my mind boggle and makes me want to throw up. You know?
So, all right. Well, I think I'm going to end the interview for now, and we're probably going to do more. We'll probably do some Zoom interviews. I'd like to also, reach out to your friend. You can have him reach out to me,
Okay.
and we can collaborate a little bit more. I need to get a hold of Blue Bacon and see if he would like to do something with this as well, just on the other stuff, just on the security side of it and some of the stuff he was doing, illegal stuff he was doing then. But hey, just so you know, guys, this thing is out of control. The stuff just keeps snowballing. And the more people that see this out on YouTube, the bigger this snowball is getting. And it's amazing how far back now this goes. Now, in 2010, supposedly, is when Jeremy started the Funeral Escort business, and I'm assuming that. But we're going to close it out for now. Hey, if you like the content, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit that bell for notifications on new uploads. Thumbs up, thumbs down, don't care, just lets me know you're there. And have a great day. I just want to thank everybody for watching the video and the interview. Like I said, I'm going to be reaching out to Blue Bacon and see if we can explore this even further than I did here. I mainly deal with the stolen valor side of it. Sergeant Blue Bacon will probably get into a little bit more on the security side of it and some of the shenanigans that Omarski was pulling when he was the daily operations guy for the business before it went out of business in April of 2009. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day.